The panel is called the Holy Grail for mobile apps, user acquisition and virality. The panel is moderated by David Cao, president of GWC. The speakers in the panel are Baudine Corman, VP Publishing of the Americas Gameloft, William Hsu, co-founder and chief product officer Storm 8, and Brian Trussell, co-founder and CEO of Glimpse. And we have one more, Vinny Lingam, CEO of Gift. David Cao in the panel, please. Thank you. Please give applause, President of GWC. Thank you.
So we have a very interesting panel. First, I would like to invite all our panelists to do a quick pitch about your company.
Thank you. I'm Vinny Lingham. So Gift is a digital wallet for your gift cards. So instead of carrying all that plastic around on you or leaving it at home, we allow you to upload and digitize your gift cards, check your balances. You can send those gift cards to friends of yours. You can buy gift cards through our app instead of having to go to the store. Very simple, very beautiful app, lots of use cases. But you know, the core value proposition is that we want to digitize the world's gift cards, and we just launched a month ago, so we're a very early stage startup, and we raised $1.25 million from Google Ventures and a few others, and yeah, off to the races. So happy to share experiences so far.
Great, I'm Brian Trussell, the co-founder and CEO of Glimpse. We're a smartphone application you can put on your phone, and we really consider ourselves the kind of mass market location sharing application. So what you do if you download our application is you can send a glimpse to somebody, and you can pick anybody out of your address book, anybody's mobile number and email, Facebook, Twitter. It'll send a link out to that person. They can click on it, and then they can see your real-time movements. They can see you moving on a map. They can see your speed. They can see your ETA. And it's not creepy, though, because you put a time limit on it. So if I'm going to go pick you up at the airport or meet you for drinks or go to pick up the kids or head into work, I can just send out a 30-minute, 45-minute glimpse. You'll see my real-time location, and then I'm off the map. So the receiver doesn't need any software. So we really are going after a very quick, simple way to share your location with anybody.
Hi, my name is William Hsu. I'm one of the co-founders at Storm8. So some background on Storm8. We're a local company in Silicon Valley. We've been around close to 4 years, have over 150 employees, and we're self-funded and profitable. We're one of the leading social gaming companies on mobile, iOS and Android. And so far, we have launched over 35 games, and they have been downloaded over 300 million times. And last year, Apple released a list of the top 100 grossing apps for the year of 2011, and we actually had 10 of the top 100. So you know, before Storm8, me and my other co-founders used to work at Facebook, and we worked on a project called Facebook Credits. And pretty happy here today to share some of my knowledge and experience. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Baudouin Corman. I'm VP Publishing at Gameloft, so I'm in charge of developing our business for North and South America. So Gameloft, we are at a different stage in terms of development. So we're a public company. We are mobile only. And we have games so on smartphones, on iOS, on Android, games such as Uno, Modern Combat, Nova, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Dark Knight Rises, and some others.
Okay, great. So let's understand our audience a little bit. How many of you came yesterday? Raise your hand. Yesterday? Okay, great. Lots of more than thought. So how many of you are doing business on apps right now? Raise your hand. Okay, not a real question. Do you need more users? Yes, no. Do we need more users? Great. So let me throw a big challenge here. So user acquisition is not easy. Many apps great idea, great apps. They just never been really publicized. So the first question I want our panelists comment is that we have a very interesting panel here, from a small startup to a growing company to a matured company and a public company. So quite a diversified panel. So my question is that regardless how big your pocket is, still user acquisition cost is pretty high. There are many companies make their living to help you to acquire user, but it's still too high. So the question to the panelists is that how to manage the user acquisition cost, how much money you like to spend.
I can start. So user acquisition is extremely important, whatever the size, I guess. So we launch 2 to 3 games per month. But the first thing that we try to do is to make sure that the game has a chance. And to give a chance, it's make sure that people can discover and can try the game. So first, it's amazing product, so that we are sure, and extremely fun experience, so that we are sure that our customers will stay engaged and will pick up the game with their friends. And then we have some other techniques to acquire customers. Advertising is one. We have creating the buzz. We can discuss it later. We have social discovery. So that maybe we can touch down later.
Totally agree with what David said. Like, app discovery is definitely one of the biggest challenge. Like, on the App Store today, you have a lot of the bigger companies spending like huge marketing budget. Like, for some, they're spending upwards to like $6, and that's one group of people that you need to compete with. And also the other group of people are like people like StarMate or Gameloft that's been around on the smartphone platforms, and people like us, already have a pretty big user base. And the advantage that we have is that like we can actually when we launch new games, we can promote them, and that's another great way to like lower user acquisition costs. But overall, I think there's still a lot of opportunities for people to get the app discovered on the App Store without paying too much. Because if you go to
what is too much?
I would say like the way a lot of people like buy user is they look at the lifetime value of users. So per install, you calculate how much money you're going to make. And typically, in order for you to be ROI positive, you want that to be lower than your lifetime value. And a lot of times, like on average, I would say like right now the acquisition cost for an install, it's like at least $2 USD. And so if you're not sure your app can make more than that, then you in that way, you might need to think more before buying.
So for us, I should give a feel for the size of our company. So we're about 3.5 million users on Glimpse. We were self-funded for a while. We took a VC money last summer when we probably had, I don't know, 700,000 or 800,000 users, and we're about 3.5 million now. So we spent in the lifetime of the company, zero on marketing, and we've paid for zero in terms of downloads. It's just not in the cards for us. For a couple reasons. Even when we didn't have money, it was kind of mandatory. We bootstrapped the company, and we just weren't about to pay $1 or $2 to get a download because it's not sustainable for us. So for us, and it's not a coincidence, but when we decided to start this company, we knew it had an inherent viral element to it. When you send a glimpse to somebody, there's somebody on the other end to pick it up that then gets exposed to the product. And since they don't need it, you're really, every time it's used, it's the use marketing. So we spend our time having to refine that viral cycle to make the use of the product drive in more and more users, and that's still where we get the vast majority of them. You fast forward to we took on VC money, and then it's like, well, geez, now you should start spending marketing money. And we haven't, partly because I haven't been able to find the marketing person that we need for the company yet. But part of it also is I have a choice to go spend $100,000 or $200,000 to buy 100,000 downloads maybe. I would much rather spend that money on the design and on the polish of the product and on the viralness, and then create some permanent asset for us. So it depends on what you are. If you're a single player game, you might not have that inherent option. But I would recommend anybody who's really looking to really grow their user base without a huge cash infusion, to really look at, is your product inherently viral? And if it's not, either figure out a way to make it that way or understand how you're going to compete in a business where you do have people paying $1 or $2 for downloads.
Yeah, so I agree with that philosophy. I think, again, we're a small company. We haven't raised enough money to spend any money on marketing, so we're trying to grow organically. And what we find is there's two ways of doing it. One is obviously buying traffic. The other way is just engineering a great product which has viral hooks built into it. For example, Facebook sharing, etc. And then trying to get up to 5 stars on the Apple Store. I think that makes a big difference between what volume you get as a 4-star app and a 5-star app. Just because people who see your app, if you're at 5 stars, they're much higher likelihood they're going to try it out and download it. So we're trying to get our product engineering focus right on the product, and hoping that the virality comes out of having a strong product which people tell their friends about, and there's word of mouth and sharing in the social networks.
Yeah, let me jump in there, because for us, on our growth path, it was very important. So we spent a lot of time making the app really work well. It caught the eye of somebody at Google, who then just gave us a brief promotion of it in the App Store. And that was enough to peak the volume just a little bit. At the time, not a ton, but enough to get noticed, and the ratings to go to 4.5 stars. And once we had 4.5 stars and the ratings coming in, then that cycle started really working well. And then with the additional usage and the maintaining of that rating, they made us an editor's choice. And there's not too many apps on the Android App Store that have editor's choice. And then that becomes a permanent element of a nice viral cycle that keeps coming in.
And also just getting into the top 10 rankings, what you can do is you can actually take some money, spend it to just on a day or two and boost your ranking in there. And if your app is good enough and it's a 5-star app, you can actually have it stay there for an elongated period of time and get the benefit of being in the top 10 in a category. Because there's a lot of traffic on the top 10, but nothing much on the rest.
But the only thing I'd caution about that is when you jump into the battlefield of paid downloads or rankings, you're competing against all sorts of different economic models, right? You're competing against games companies that are charging $6 a game, and maybe you're only charging $1 for your app. You're competing against VC money that's just spending money just to acquire users. So if you want to jump into the kind of the global ranking, advertising, pay for download business, just realize who you're up against, and if your company can suffer those kinds of economics or sustain it.
Okay, so question is that, do you spend money? The only answer I get from Brian is that, okay, you're not spending any money. So as a new company, are you spending money? Is Gameloft spending money to buy the users?
So at Gameloft, advertising is one element.
How many percent of the total budget? How many percent of your money was spent in user acquisition?
We don't disclose this number, but if we look at the entire marketing effort, that's only a portion of our marketing efforts. And sometimes it can be interesting to have a boost to do some advertising. That's part of the deal. But there are also other techniques that are working pretty well for us. We're using social networks to pre-announce our games, to create a buzz, to make people excited about what's coming. We have 7+ million fans on Facebook, and we do a marketing plan for each one of our products, releasing assets, starting with screenshots, and then trailers, and then answering questions, doing some diaries with our developers. So that's a way to create the buzz, to create the big expectation, and when the game launches, it creates this boost. So that's a significant investment. That's something that we do also at a local level, because to be efficient. So today we have 70% or more than 70% of our revenue is from outside the US on smartphones.
Okay, got it. So I understood, since you have lots of games, my kids play Gameloft games a lot. But I don't think Glimpse and Gift, I don't even know, Storm has the luxury to have a large existing user base to promote. Maybe start our smallest one, first Gift. So Vinny, what do you think? Okay, you don't have a big fan, you don't have 7 million fans in Facebook. How do you promote your apps with your current budget?
So we do spend money on some marketing, which we're starting to do this coming week, and we have spent money on PR up to now. So you're putting press releases out, and what we find is when you do a press release and you actually have a new feature or something which is going to entice users or a new angle for news reporters, you get a lot of press written about you, and that actually leads to traffic and downloads. And what we find is there's this huge spike the day there's a press release that goes out, and then it gets to a baseline. But every time we do press releases on a regular basis and you have new innovative features, you actually, the baseline keeps improving. So regular...
Still too easy. So press release, maybe people can spend a small, free press release there. So to me, it's so easy to be copied. It's something how to make your promotion.
Well, it's not really about promotions. It's about product engineering. So we launched on the 10th of September last month. We've had the fourth iterations coming out right now. So we went from version 1.00 to version 1.04 in 5 weeks. Every week we're putting a new release out with new features which are actually press worthy, which press want to write about or talk about, which is great for the user and engaging for the users, and that gets us a lot more airtime. So from a product engineering perspective, we're able to generate buzz and hype around the product, which gets us traffic, which almost free because there is some cost for press releases, but it's almost free.
Understand it's free, but will be too small. Is your traffic enough to compete with people on the other end of the panel?
Not yet.
Yeah, because I would add kind of like what he said. There's definitely various forms of marketing. There's kind of the branding and the community and all that. Then I think what you were looking for is kind of more, I would say kind of performance marketing, which is the paid downloads. And on that front, it's definitely something that if you were to take your press release and to drive hundreds or even millions of downloads, that's something that is needed, I would say, on the App Store today, to just pay for downloads. But then the thing that you need to be careful of is just there's so many different sources out there. There are tons of ad networks, and it's very important to just really measure the quality, retention of the users, how much you're paying, and where they're coming from. Because for example, different countries might perform differently.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So
let me jump in on that because I think it applies for us very much this week. So this week we launched the V2 of the product, which is really the largest release we've done since we started the company. And so we had this, we earlier on had the debate: do we spend money to buy downloads? No. Should we augment the press? But the press, everybody and their dog is trying to get press out about how their cool new app is adding this new thing. And so we went back to the basics of the product and said, we want to add a super cool feature that's inherently going to drive virality and is press worthy and can then kind of ride that wave. And we see the same thing. You see so we're probably up, I don't know, by a factor of 6 or 7 in our downloads because of the press piece this week. But our big feature was we added groups in. So we added this element that allows you to share your location with a group of people instantaneously, right? So if you're at a conference or guys now down in Vegas or skiing or at Disneyland or whatever, you can create this, or doing a run, you can create this instant group. That was newsworthy enough to get some press. It added viralness to the product, but it was back to my earlier point, where we put our money, and what I would encourage almost any early or R-stage entrepreneur who's doing a consumer application, put it into the feature set of the product, and then let everything else follow. Let the marketing follow the product, and let the PR follow the product.
Okay, got it. So I would like to speak on behalf of our audience. So most of them don't have that luxury budget or marketing muscles, which Gameloft has. Even StoreMate has. I believe we have 200 million user base right now. So for the early stage companies, so many of the audience will be on similar stage right now. How do they compete with people who has a big budget or they have the big marketing muscle?
Okay, so it's different for different industries, in my opinion. I think you've got, games a whole different industry by itself. But I think when you're coming up with building apps which are highly differentiated and solve basic core use cases and needs for consumers and solving real problems, you're going to get traffic. And that's going to be word of mouth and people just looking for applications that solve their basic needs. I mean, Glimpse is a great example. It's a highly focused app. Sharing your location is easy to explain. Gifts as well, gift cards. And what we've done is we've gone very narrowly focused. We're doing mobile gift cards for the US on iOS. That's how we started. That's how we launched. That's our focus. Now we'll expand over time, but we're going to keep it very narrowly focused to ensure that all our engineering time and efforts and product development is channeled into this one simple use case and fixing up, or solving the problems in that area, in that industry. So I think it's, focus is what's important, because then you can stand out. So when you ask what does GIF do differently to other companies in the similar spaces or adjacent spaces, the user understands the difference, and the product is of a high enough quality that the users want your product because of the differentiation that you have and you've built in. So,
No, I completely agree with that. And specifically, there's a great opportunity. Let's take games. I used to be in games before I started Glimpse. And if you roll back the clock to the olden days, like 2007, in mobile, it was only the big boys that could play in games. You had to have a relationship with the carrier. You had to get on deck. You had to get one of those 10 text slots on a feature phone. And now it's really opened up, and the ability for, if you look at the big companies that have been created over the years, they're generally small companies. And the ability to get out there and get noticed is fantastic. I think it might have peaked now, because now you just are running out of even digital attention space. But a great quality game is going to outperform a less polished corporate game, despite their inherent advantages.
So I would add a little bit to that. The stance that I'm going to take, for games particularly, is that it is possible, but I wouldn't say, I'm kind of on David's side, I wouldn't say it's easy, because realistically, if you're a small developer and you're launching a game, compare that to when Gameloft launch a game or when Stormate launch a game, we're definitely going to be, we have the users, we have the budget to kind of push the app all the way to the top of the App Store. We're definitely going to have an advantage over smaller developers. But with that said though, there's, if you look at the top 100 on the App Store, there's plenty of space for everyone. I think for small developers, like you said, you do need a good game. You need to worry about if your game is marketable or not. Is it a theme or mechanic that attract people? How's the packaging? And also are you just delivering something different or something new to the market?
Okay, let me ask another show of hands from audience. How many of you are developing apps or working on apps which need to compete with apps from Gameloft or Stormate? Raise your hand. Okay, you do have some competitors. Now, I'm going to throw a question to Baldwin. How you think what's the best way for them to compete with you?
I think that William. First, we are super happy to compete, and I think that's really great today on app stores. That there's space for creativity, for innovation, for new game mechanics, for a new type of games. So that's great. And then first advice is doing a great content, doing a great game.
The problem is that everybody believes their content is great.
Yeah, but the consumers tell you, they give you stars, they speak about your game to their friends, and that's as simple as that. Yes, if your consumers have good time, they will share with their friends, speak about it. If you have some social mechanism inside your games, it will help spread out. So if you have Facebook Connect in your games, so in our social free-to-play games, we have Facebook Connect in all our games, then it will increase the power of the word of mouth.
Okay, guys.
I'd say look at how you're going to compete against these big companies, right? So I wouldn't try to do a first-person shooter. I wouldn't try to do Nova against Gameloft, because it's so polished and there's so much graphics and such an engine that's leveraged.
Let's say compete with the download, because remember, they are occupies the user's handset. You are competing with them on the space of the handset. So I'm going to throw this question to all three panelists: that if you don't have a big budget, you are competing with Gameloft on the phone screen. Even it's of more than 10 screens than the feature phones, but still you have limited space. Is Virality the best way to do it?
It depends on the game, right? If you have a multiplayer game, if you have a game that has a social element that's built in, I think people are getting numb to just the sloppy virality, right? Of, oh, I did this, please post to Facebook. And then it posts and say, Fred hit level 4 king mage maker in the forest on Go Whack 'em. And you're just like, I don't know what that means. But if you can integrate it into, I mean, games that take screenshots or that show that up, or where you're having multiplayer games where people are sharing actual elements, or you get to do a replay of an Angry Birds beautiful shot. Those things can be, and you can leverage the virality, but you can't be sloppy with it anymore. So, but the thing I'd say is, you know, if you take a look at some of the great blockbusters, you take a look at Cut the Rope, you take a look at Angry Birds, and where they came from, there wasn't an inherent advantage for that to be done at a huge company like Gameloft, right? So if you've got a simple game with a great mechanic that's addictive, you can compete with those guys great, because it just, those things will happen word of mouth, right? If your game is so good, I want to go tell my friends about it, then you'll do well. And if it's not that good, then I don't know you can do anything to make it viral, except spend a bunch of money.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the point on the viral part. Like, you really need to have like a game that is kind of built for social. You really just can't slap on Facebook Connect, put up a leaderboard, and assume it goes kind of viral. Like, if you look at the successes on the App Store that has kind of grew virally, like, draw something, song pop, like Words with Friends, like, social, it's a key part of, the whole game. Like, it has actual meaningful social interactions. And something that we learned at StormMate is, we make social games, and we know that, like, in our games, like, the players, the social players that actually engage and play with their friends, tend to retain better, they tend to engage more, they tend to monetize better, and viral is a good way to not only get these more valuable users, but they also come for free too, and that's another way to like compete with people who can actually pay $6 and install.
Okay, I do have a small announcement. We're going to open the question to the floor right after this round of discussion. If you have a question to the panelists, go ahead. Create a line right there behind that microphone. We'll start to take the audience questions.
Yeah, and the social aspect, so it's important for the virality, but it's super important to retain customers. And we've seen that some of our multiplayer or shorter games, so Nova, we've seen that the life cycle of the product was pretty long thanks to the multiplayer feature. Thanks to the multiplayer mode. So because there's multiplayer mode, people stay engaged, keep playing, keep telling about it to their friends. So that's really a way to increase the lifetime of the product and of the game.
Okay, so so of course, you guys shared lots of great ideas, but let's face the reality. The reality is that still, around 30% of apps downloaded by user only being opened once. So this means even the people who apps are being opened twice, 3 times, vast majority of them will die. So the result is most of apps will not, so even they take most of suggestions you had ever suggested, still, most of apps will die. The question is that what it take not to die?
So look, so in our case, and we're different from gaming, we allow users to upload, again, gift cards, stored value, which has got real monetary value in it. So we see ourselves more as an application where once you've uploaded a gift card and you've stored $50, $100 of value across 2 or 3 cards, there's a reason to come back to your app. Even if it's 6 months from now or 3 months from now, when you're going to go into a store and actually purchase, there's a reason to come back. So our goal and our metrics as a company is focused on getting people to upload that first gift card into the app. And then engagement sort of takes care of itself by virtue of the fact that there's stored value. That's different for gaming, it's different for other industries, but we're focusing on solving the use case for the consumer and making sure that there's a reason for them to come back to the app. And again, it's different in the entertainment space.
Yeah, I think every app's different, but the meta point is you've got to get that hook in and get it in early, because there's a lot of shiny objects and a lot of noises, and if there's not, if there's something where you've signed up and there's something coming in later, you're in trouble. What we did with Glimpse for our hook is we wanted to make it very, very simple that first time use. We wanted it to be 10 seconds before you send out a glimpse, but our hook is you're always sending it to somebody, right? That person you're going to meet for lunch, that person you're going to go pick up from the airport, that spouse at home. And for us, we wanted to make that receiving experience super pleasant. So we put a lot of attention into making sure that this person that's never heard of our app and then sees this link from a friend, when they click on it, that they have a really unique, pleasant, delighted experience, because our loop is that then when you get home or to work or you meet that person, that the first thing to say to you is like, I got your glimpse, that was really cool. And then that creates this kind of, wow, that was cool. I'm going to use it again next time I go meet with Joe or Sally or anybody else. So you've got to get that first time experience. You've got to get an emotional connection, or you'll just fall by the wayside when the next shiny object comes by.
Yeah, I think, David, that's a great question. StoreMate, we started about 4 years ago. We were self-funded. We didn't take any, money, no investment. And a lot of people ask us, how do you guys do this for 4 years and still be successful? I would say there were two things that we did really well on. Number one was we think long term. So a lot of people right now are kind of looking for that one-hit wonder. But realistically speaking, 9 times out of 10, you might think you have the greatest idea, the best game. Most likely, it's not going to become the next Angry Birds. You just have to plan that, you're going to be working on, multiple games, try out different ideas, think long term, invest in technologies, game engines, and really just kind of learn from your mistakes and really try to improve yourself over time. And I think the other thing that we did really well was just kind of be fast. The mobile space evolves so fast. Even if you have the best idea, if you take too long working on it, it might be too late. And I think this also applies to even bigger companies too. There's been a lot of talk about US companies going to China and Chinese companies going to US, and it's the same too. Definitely take the time to learn the market, find the best local partners, but you need to do things fast. Otherwise, someone else is going to do it, or the local market is going to change.
Okay, so very much less strategies are great. You face a challenge, and still most of them will die. Next question is that still how to deliver it, especially for small companies, don't have a big PR agency, don't have a big marketing team. How do you do it? Do you hire a PR agency? Do you hire a consultant? Do you do it yourself?
So we've outsourced the PR. I think we hired a PR agency to help us. And then,
how do you pay them? Pay the results, pay by user acquisition, or pay by just hourly rate?
Hourly rate tends to be the best, because then you can manage your costs a lot better as well. So as a small company, we prefer that. My background is actually online marketing and customer acquisition through search and that sort of thing. So I actually do a lot of the online marketing going forward, the strategy and what we're going to go after. So one of the things that's actually worth pointing out is, you can acquire customers profitably. Okay, so you can pay $20 for the right customer, as opposed to having to worry about averaging at 4 or 3 or 6, whatever it is. You've got to get your targeting right. You've got to go after the right customers. If you just go and spend money blindly on ads, then you have to work towards $2, $3 per install. But if you can get the targeting of your ads down to, this is the consumer we're after. It's a 30-year-old woman who's married and has 2 kids. If you can get after those consumers who have a high likelihood of converting on your app and then spending money on your app, you can pay more for them. And the biggest problem with that is, as a big company, you can't scale that. You can't spend millions of dollars targeting those consumers. There's too few of them. So you've got to scale up the campaign in such a way that you can acquire bigger amounts. But for a small company, if you're spending $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month or even $2,000 a month, but you're acquiring the right customers in your target zone, and you can actually do it profitably and learn a lot from that and grow your user base.
Okay, well, also, any question from the audience? Can you please stand on that one?
Hi there. This question could be for the VCs too, but also maybe for the entrepreneurs. Myself being an entrepreneur, you could know about a lot of spaces in mobile. So what do you think are the top 3, and in an unbiased way if possible, what do you think are the top 3 spaces in mobile, verticals in mobile right now, apps, that have the biggest demand-supply gap, either way? I mean, like demand from the market versus the supply that is there, or too much supply but less demand?
I mean, I think there's So again, we think in the mobile payment space, for example, there's an oversupply of apps that are coming out trying to solve the mobile payments problem, but we haven't defined what the problem is. Consumers are happy to pay with credit cards. In some parts of the world, outside the US, China, etc., mobile payments is solved to a large extent. The carriers deal with that. It's solved. So I think the question really, I'll break it down to the US. What are the opportunities in the US is solving the problems and then looking at mobile as a way of because its point is pushing out all these mobile payment apps. I've probably seen like 50 of them, in the past year in the US, and no one, there's no adoption. There's no need for consumers to adopt these apps. So therefore, they aren't really solving the problem. But I think, from my perspective, and I think a lot of us will agree that the mobile payment space is very interesting right now with everyone playing in it. But we'll see how that shakes out. I don't know what the other big opportunities are, but that's one.
Let's take the next question.
I want to compliment you, Vinny, on the gift app. You're operating in a space that has very well-funded competitors and Safeway and whatnot, and it's a much more elegant app.
Can you please make the question?
My question is, so you're targeting a female, older demographic, which is very different from the gaming market. Do you have any insights to share with us on that market?
Yeah, so where we find, again, so that's a good question. Our audience is typically people who are who've just gotten married because they get a lot of gift cards around that time, weddings, etc. Having kids, having kids, for example, taking gifts to school, giving their teachers gift cards. That's the sort of, it's definitely the older crowd in terms of the spending power with mobile wallets and gift cards. What we find, though, is a lot of kids want to use the app to buy their GameStop cards, to go and buy, credits, etc., etc. And instead of having to go, ask their parents to go to the stores. So, our demographic is different. It's a use case issue, not actually, not a demographic as much.
So let's take the next question.
Hello, my name is Marina Petrenko, and I work with Happy Giant. My question is, first, the company launched its application last Thursday, and but this is a 3D pet sim game. So my first question is, how would you recommend us to compete with the giants in the industry like you? And the second question is, as far as user acquisition, what would be your recommendation?
I guess I can take that question. So, no, definitely, I think there's still, a lot of demand for games. Like back to an earlier question, like, if you go on the App Store, like top 3, top paid, top grossing, most of them are games. And in terms of kind of user acquisition, I don't know if we touched on this before. Like another kind of method that a lot of people use is just like, publishing. You could like look at, signing up with a publisher. Of course, like the way it usually works is like, they'll take a rev share on your revenue. But they'll be providing like marketing and PR and support like to you if you don't have the capital to spend on ads.
We decided to self-launch the game, and now like my question is, how would you recommend us to work with user acquisition, and what would be your recommendations as far as this area?
But do you have like a marketing budget?
Cannot be a discussion. We'll have some other questions. If any other audience want to ask questions.
We can talk afterward.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 2.5 minutes left. I would like each of you give 40 seconds. There's one more question. Go ahead.
Yeah, this question is basically for Storm 8. Now you're big enough, but can you tell us like at the beginning how you started from like maybe like 1 or 3%, you somehow manage to break even and make it bigger and bigger? Is that like a special event in the whole process to make it break out, or it's just like it's a long process? Just share some light on that point. Thank you.
So that's a good question. So when we started, we just had a few of us. We bought ourselves like iPhones and MacBook, and that's how we really kind of got started. But kind of the advantage that we had back then was we were one of the first mover to the iOS platform. Like when we started, there really weren't that many competition on the App Store, and you really can just make a good apps and get good users. And kind of to the second part of the question is like, I wouldn't say there was like kind of one big event that really pushed us to like a huge user base. We kind of worked really hard, we iterated on our games, and we kind of collected our users like gradually over time.
Okay, so we have 90 seconds left. I would like to invite each of you to give your final suggestions to our audience, especially the app developers, how to acquire a user, especially your most important 2 to 3 suggestions.
It sounds trite, but it's the way it is. Concentrate on your product. If you don't have a good product, you're not going to compete in the long run, you're not going to delight your customers, and you're not going to go viral. So nail that first, and then start looking at, I would say in general, getting the word out via marketing. And one of the last places I would go personally is go spend money to buy downloads.
So, for me, it's design great applications, make sure they're robust, eliminate crashes, because that loses customers for you, that loses users for you. Make sure that it's a robust platform and technology, and the design is beautiful, of course. Iterate quickly. Keep bringing out new releases, new features, and make sure that your product is worthy of people's time. And that way, they will tell their friends about it and solve problems elegantly.
So my advice would be to create a community. So first, of course, is build a great product, a fun game, and then start building a community, people who are following you. So you can start with press, you can do with a few bloggers, you can do with a few customers. We are interacting a lot with our consumers, with our gamers, to have their feedback, and then we have an active customer base that can expand, and that's really the first. That's really a huge asset. Then you can do cross promotion and so on. So really building this consumer base is key. Taking care of them, it will start small for sure, but that's really the long term. I think that would be the best long term bet.
Yeah, I would say my final advice is just like, no matter if you definitely build good products, build a good game networks to cross promote with. Like if you need to pay for installs, but like whatever you do, like there's definitely many ways to get users, but definitely keep trying and keep iterating. Like the mobile space in terms of user acquisition on smartphones, it's all pretty new. Like things are always changing. Like you just have to, you won't know until you try it out.
I'm sure those advice will be very valuable to our entrepreneurs. So please give a big hand to our four speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, David.